this is my top 10 list for underrated pets here in Grow a Garden in Roblox. When I call these pets underrated, I mean they are very useful with very useful effects, but there are just so many pets out there they often go underlooked. At number 10, you have this little guy right here, the Starfish. Now, the Starfish previously would have been higher up on this list, but I'm ranking it number 10 because many people have caught on to just how useful and lucrative the Starfish is. Everyone understands that the Starfish grants you additional experience every second, but where here it mentions 6 experience, in practice, a high age pet can reach upwards of 13 experience additionally per second. And having an old aged pet is very useful in Grow a Garden because you can talk to the pet guy and trade aged pets in for additional pet slots, additional egg slots, and additional pet capacity. Because of this, they can be sold on Discord and on marketplaces for upwards of $70 trillion. And because of that, I'm ranking him number 10 out of 10 of my most underrated pets in Grow a Garden. Again, he would be ranked much higher if many people weren't already aware of just how good the Starfish is. He's no longer as underrated as he once was. Coming in at number 9 is my favorite animal in all of the animal kingdom, and that is this guy, the polar bear. The polar bear is a very underrated pet here in Grow a Garden, and that is because of his unique effect that puts the chilled or frozen mutation on plants in the game. Now, some of you may be under the impression that the cold weather effect is still active, and no, the cold weather effect is gone. It never triggers in the game anymore. And this makes a lot of sense because we're in the middle of summer, not in the middle of winter. And when it comes to the winter, this pet will use its usefulness and will decrease. But for the time being, because we are in the warmest weathers of the year, the cold mutation and therefore the frozen mutation can only be acquired by the polar bear or by a spray. So for that reason, I feel the polar bear is underrated, though not as underrated as future pets in this list, so we rank him at number 9. Coming in at number 8, it is not this pet specifically, but basically the entire species of pet this guy represents, and that's the bee. Whether that is the regular bee, the honey bee, the queen bee, the wasps, the entire thing, because they give you pollinated on your plants for free. Yes, you are able to go and craft a pollinated spray, but why do that when you can just slap down a bee or 2 or 3 for free and have free pollinated fruits? And since the bee event is no longer active and we're no longer getting pollinated from weather events, the only way to get pollinated once again is a spray or a pet. So because of that, I want to rank these guys at number 7, more underrated than the polar bear because winter is eventually coming. But the bee weather event, I don't know if we're going to see that again outside of admin abuse. For that reason, the bee family is my most underrated, coming in at number 7. Now, there is a special bee, a bee that is not like the other bees. This bee is adorable, this bee is useful, and he's coming in at number 6. He is the bear bee. Being only one of 2 ways to acquire the honey glazed mutation, the bear bee is exceptionally useful. Yes, you can use a honey sprinkler to put the honey glazed mutation on any plant you want, but these are limited and they cost money. Whereas the bear bee is unlimited, costs you nothing more than the food to keep it alive, and he will give you honey glazed all the time. So for that reason, he is my number 6 most underrated pet in Grow a Garden. But now we're going into the top 5, and the top 5 is kind of interesting. And I just counted the pets I talked about. I've talked about 4 pets. Those are ranks 10, 9, 8, and 7. The bear bee is actually number 7. Now we move on to number 6. Math is hard, not gonna lie. At number 6, we have a relatively new pet that applies a relatively new effect, and that is the Hikasin macaw. Coming from one of the most recent eggs, this guy will give you the cloud-touched mutation. Once again, much like the bear bee, this guy will apply the mutation for free, whereas you have to use a spray, which only shows up in a traveler's shop. And the traveler shop is only every 4 hours, and every 4 hours, you're not guaranteed to get that shop. You could get the gnome one, you could get the bee one. So this guy, being able to apply the mutation whenever you want to whatever pet you want to whatever plant you want to, is very powerful and very useful. So I feel he is quite underrated. So that was your number 6 pet, finally, most underrated here in Roblox. Let's move on to the top 5. This is where it actually gets interesting. Coming in at number 5 in our top 5, you have the Pterodactyl. Guys, get your hands on a Pterodactyl during this event while you can. The Pterodactyl is about a 3% chance to drop from Dino Eggs right now. He's very rare, but the reason why he's underrated is similar to the reason why the polar bear is underrated. His mutation that he applies to plants in the game most likely is going to rotate out come the winter. The Pterodactyl over here will occasionally apply the Windstruck mutation or the Twisted mutation. And when winter rolls around once again, will we have windstorms and tornadoes in the game, or will they be replaced by cold and blizzards? There's a strong chance that the only way to acquire the Twisted or the Windstruck mutation in the wintertime is the Pterodactyl. So for that reason, I think he's severely underrated and is a pet you definitely want to continue to farm for the foreseeable future until the Dino mutation, the Dino event rotates out. Coming in at number 4 here in my top 5, you have an oldie but a goodie, the Cooked Owl. The Cooked Owl is slept on and underrated here in Grow A Garden in Roblox for one reason and one reason only. He's the only thing that can apply the Cooked mutation. There was a time when that owl was the only thing to apply at least the Burnt mutation, but we now have a spray for that. However, he is the only source of the Cooked mutation. So if you want to have that perfect plant with the perfect mutations on it, you're going to need the Cooked Owl. So for that reason, he is easily ranked number 4. And don't sleep on the Cooked mutation. The Cooked mutation is, in fact, a times 10 multiplier. That is why I put the Cooked Owl here ranked at number 4. And we're about to get into our top 3. At number 3, the best pet in the world, the goodest boy of all good boys. We are talking about the Golden Lab. Golden Labs, considering they come from common eggs, are so underrated and everybody continues to sleep on them. Just last night, I had 8 Golden Labs sitting in my garden. In fact, 7 Golden Labs and a moth to keep them fed. One of them being the huge Golden Lab that I have here, the goodest of boys. And do you know what they farmed for me overnight? The first night they farmed a burning bud. The second night they farmed 2 beanstalks. Everybody is sleeping on the Golden Labs. Guys, if you have time to AFK, if you can keep your computer running overnight, however you want to do it, get yourself a Golden Lab army, have them sit there and get you seeds, and you will be amazed at the seeds you will acquire over the course of a night. The Golden Lab is number 3 most underrated. We are now here on our final 2, and coming in at rank number 2 is the Chicken Zombie. Look at him. Everyone loves the Chicken Zombie. Everyone loved the Minecraft movie, but the Chicken Zombie is underrated even above and beyond its rarity because it is the only source of the zombified mutation in the entire game. And zombified is quite a good mutation. Zombified is a times 25 mutation. It can only be applied by the Chicken Zombie. Because of that, because of its rarity, and because of its uniqueness, he is easily my number 2 most underrated, most slept on pet here in Grow A Garden. And that brings us to my number 1. This guy is special, very special. And with a recent update that I don't think enough of you know about, he's even better than before. I'm not talking about anyone who is weak. I'm talking about this underrated king, this jewel of the underrated crown, my number 1 most underrated pet, and that is the Scarlet Macaw. And before you go, but Crow, Pterodactyl is garbage. Who wants the Scarlet Macaw? It has been changed. The Scarlet Macaw is in the Paradise Egg and hatches rarely, and it has a simple effect. Occasionally, at 16%, it will apply the Verdant mutation to a nearby fruit, applying a new mutation. And he is the only pet in the game to apply that mutation. Not even Weathers can apply Verdant. So that by itself is quite good, making him underrated as the only source of Verdant. But the story doesn't end there. Verdant is only a ×4 multiplier. That's kind of sad. But Verdant combines with Sun-Dried to create Pterodactyl, as everybody knows. Occurs when a plant is both verdant and sun-dried, but replaces both mutations. And that's horrible, because sun-dried is an epic mutation with like a ×80 multiplier. It's insane. And Pterodactyl is only what? A ×15 multiplier? Why would I want to eat Pterodactyl? Why would I want to do that? Sun-dried is so much better. Things have changed. As you can see, sun-dried was and is an 85 times mutation, but Pterodactyl has been buffed from a 15 mutation to a ×100 mutation. And last I checked, after you acquire the Pterodactyl mutation, you're able to get verdant and sun-dried on top again. So for that reason, this little guy combined with a sun-dried mutation is going to equate for nearly ×200 in mutations between verdant, sun-dried, and Pterodactyl together. So for that reason, he is my #1 most underrated pet in Grow a Garden. What did you think of the list? Comment down below with your thoughts. And as always, guys, thank you very much for watching.